So today I'm here with Nicky from ESPC Lettings, Head of Lettings at ESPC Lettings, and we're going to talk about kind of how people can turn their current home, if they're thinking about moving, how they can turn that home into a rental property and keep that as an asset rather than maybe sell and move to their next home. So if someone is thinking about doing that, what's the kind of first step they would need to take?
So if you currently own your property but you have a mortgage in place, the first thing you would need to do is check with your mortgage provider that they were happy for you to be able to rent the property out. It's likely that you would have to move from a residential mortgage to a buy-to-let mortgage. So the first thing to do would be check with your mortgage provider to make sure that that was going to be possible.
Perfect. And so if you get the all clear from the mortgage advisor, who would you approach next to kind of move your dwelling from residential to buy-to-let?
Sure, so what you want to do is make sure that all of the numbers are going to stack up. So the best thing to do would to be contacting a letting agent, get somebody out, get them to come and visit you at the property. They can have a chat through, give you an indication of the rent that you can achieve. So then you can start to weigh up your finances, if it's going to be worthwhile, if you're going to cover your costs whilst you rent it out. And they'll go through the legal requirements, so things like the gas, electrical safety checks, registering as a landlord, if there's any work that might be needed at the property to bring it up to a rental standard, such as decorating, then by getting out a letting agent, they'll be able to talk you through that. So then you'll have all of the information right from the start. You can start to think about timings and expense and to see if it's going to work for you.
Perfect. And would you be able to advise on things like pricing for rent and how much they can expect to kind of achieve?
Yeah, sure. So as part of the services that we offer at ESPC Lettings would be to go and give a non-obligation rental valuation. So we can go along, chat to the owner of the property and give them an idea of what rent they can achieve, how quickly they might rent out the property so they can work out if they're going to have any void periods, and give them an idea of what they can expect.
Perfect. So that sounds really straightforward. So they can maybe find their new place, or if they're moving abroad maybe for work, they can basically hand it all over to you guys once they've made that decision. Is that the case?
So really, the hardest thing is making the decision that that's what you're going to do. And once you've made the decision, then we would be here to help you along the way. Quite often what we do is a property owner will have a date that they're moving out, which is going to be a date in advance. So we would start to advertise the property as available from the date once they move out. So we would probably start advertising about a month before they move out. And then ideally we've got somebody ready to move in just shortly after they move out. That works from the majority, although I know if people are making a big move and things might be a little bit chaotic at home and they kind of think, I'm not quite ready to get on property on the rental market, we can wait until you leave. If that's easier, you pack up and you leave and you say, here's my keys, now find me a tenant, we can do it that way. So it's either option really, whatever works best for the property owner, so either way.
And do you find that people leave their homes furnished just as is, or do they put everything into storage while they're not there?
So it's a real mixture, and what I would say is it maybe depends on the type of property. So if it was a 3-bedroom family home, for example, what we would find is most tenants that were looking to move into that property are going to be families. It's likely not to be the first place that they've rented, so they would have their own furniture that they would want to bring. So either the property owner puts their items in storage, or quite often if they're moving elsewhere, they'll take their items with them. What I would say to people is just to be flexible. People will ask if they want or don't want things, so be flexible to maybe a potential tenant's requests. But in the most instances, landlords will leave the basic of furniture and they're looking to start afresh somewhere new, so they want new things when they move. So they would mostly leave kind of just basic items of furniture. But the best thing is, just to be flexible.
Perfect. And is there any kind of costs involved with putting your home on the market?
So only really in terms of preparing the property. So if there is maybe work that's needed such as redecoration. You might decide to put some new flooring down, just generally give the property a little bit of a spruce up. The other things that you would need to do ahead of advertising the property would be to register as a landlord. So you need to go online with Edinburgh City Council or wherever the property is located. You just register with the local council, you register online. The other things you would need would be gas and electrical checks. There may or may not be works that are required to bring it to the rental standard. So what I would say is, the sooner the better that you do that, so then you can kind of work in any costs for any remedial works that might need to be done. But that's essentially the only costs. At ESPC Lettings, we don't charge a marketing fee in advance. We only charge our fees once the property has been let. So however long that takes, which is not very long at the moment, and the fees are then taken off the first month's rent. So there are no upfront fees to pay. All the landlord would be paying is whatever needs to be done to prepare the property.
Okay, and I know that normally a solicitor would help you with your things like tax, property tax. Do you know how additional dwelling supplement works in these kind of situations?
Yeah, so it depending what the landlord's situation was. So if they decided to keep hold of their existing property and then they were looking to buy elsewhere, then they're going to have to pay that additional dwelling tax on that new property, unfortunately. So they would need to calibrate that into the purchase price of the new property. If they were going travelling or they were renting somewhere else, they were maybe only on a year's contract somewhere and their intention was maybe to move back to the rental property, then the ADS isn't going to apply onto those. It's only if they're going to be buying somewhere new elsewhere.
And so is there any other pieces of advice you would give someone who is thinking about putting their property on the rental market?
Yeah, sure. So sometimes landlords might think about doing this, but they're a little bit concerned about what if it doesn't work out, or what if my plans change? Can I get my property back? So yes, you can. You can serve notice on your tenants. So as long as there is a ground for serving notice, such as you need to return to the property, it will become your main residence, then you can serve notice. Or if your plans do change and you want to sell the property, again, that's a ground for being able to serve notice. So yeah, some of the concerns people have would be, if I do this, what happens if I change my mind? But as long as there is a ground for serving notice, then yeah, you can get your property back.
Perfect. And in Scotland, there's no minimum rental period. You can't fix for,
No,
6 months or a
no,
year.
so you can't fix for any specific period. So the lease will have a date that it starts, but no end date, no fixed period of time. So it essentially just carries on until either party brings it to an end and gives notice.
Perfect. Well, I think that's really helpful.
Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Nicky.
Thanks very much.